You know the drill, folks. My name is Chester, and this is episode 4 of Cookie Run Dominion. Today, we meet the Veggie King and Dragon Slayer himself, Railroad Cookie, and content warning ahead for familial neglect and attempted execution. After a long trek, we have finally arrived in the Veggie Kingdom, ruled by the Root of Humility, Royal Root Cookie. As the heroes explore the large, prosperous lands of the Veggie Kingdom, they begin to hear whispers among the farm cookies about the princess of the land, Rhubarb Cookie. They all seem to enjoy her presence, but lately she hasn't been taking her daily walks along the lower parts of the kingdom. It's been leaving everyone a little antsy and a little worried. They approach and ask a couple of cookies about what's going on, and they lament that they have no idea themselves. It seems that the princess has been huddled up in the castle all of a sudden. Of course, this makes our heroes curious, and they need into the castle to talk to Royal Root Cookie anyway, so off they go. Heading up the castle steps, they're halted suddenly by the guards, and when Gingerbrave tries to explain their plight, waving around Silver Apple Cookie's envelope, it's clear that they don't care. And so, making their way around the surrounding gardens, they meet Radish Cookie, the royal tinkerer. Here, it's her job to keep all the tools and machinery of the castle in tip-top shape. Again, they explain their situation, and while Radish Cookie doesn't have her keys to the castle on her, she admits that the princess is always keeping her window open. Maybe she could help them climb in through there. She's quite close to the princess, she explains. All the lower class are. In fact, Rhubarb Cookie may be more popular among the people than her own father. It's a struggle, and Wizard Cookie and Chili Pepper Cookie have to end up waiting outside, annoying as it is, but eventually Gingerbrave, Strawberry Cookie, and Custard Cookie III successfully climb into the princess's room. Inside, they find Princess Rhubarb Cookie sitting on her bed and crying. Gingerbrave approaches her first, nervously asking what's wrong. She looks startled before relaxing. It's just a bunch of kids, nothing more dangerous than her current situation. She shakes her head, sitting up. There's nothing these kids should be worried about. They should be running outside, playing, going home to their families, and holding their parents tight. It's a bit of an awkwardness for a while. Then Custard Cookie III stepped forward, holding Rhubarb Cookie's hand and innocently asking what it's like to live in such a big castle. She looks amused for a moment before a clang of armor approaches from the other side of the door. It's the castle guards! She urges the kids to hide someplace quickly before the guards come in. And from under the bed, the trio watches Rhubarb Cookie is escorted out of her room, her steps slow and afraid. They come out, and seeing no other castle staff coming, they hurry to find Rhubarb Cookie. This was her chance! If only they could just get him to listen. They find him within his chambers, getting ready for something. Perhaps an event? He's, of course, frightened by these strange children's presence within his castle, his room no less. But Gingerbrave tries to tell him what's happening, that there's no need for a war anymore. Royal Root Cookie takes a solemn glance at their letter, and the next moment, they've been kicked out of the castle. Royal Root Cookie wants nothing to do with that witch Silver Apple Cookie. Wizard Cookie and Chili Pepper Cookie rejoin with the others, and Radish Cookie apologizes for not getting them anywhere far. She recommends them to travel into town, see if they can find anything to do, and of course, they follow this advice. It seems the upper class have just as much gossip as the lower class, and they're murmuring about a public execution, something that hasn't happened since Royal Root Cookie took the crown all those years ago. They eventually find themselves at the center of town, meeting a man sharpening his axe. This is Grilled Zucchini Cookie. Curious, Gingerbrave steps forward and asks what he's prepping for. The truth slipped easily from the cookie's tongue. He's the executioner, and tonight, somebody will be getting the chop. The upper class begin to gather around the scaffold, and approaching from the road are 2 guards and Rhubarb Cookie. Gingerbrave goes cold, realization dawning on him. He shouts for Grilled Zucchini Cookie to stop, but he doesn't listen. He's just doing his job. Why should he listen to a bunch of misfits? Chili Pepper Cookie barks. This isn't right! She may not like the royals, but what could Rhubarb Cookie possibly have done to deserve this? Royal Root Cookie's voice cuts through. Princess Rhubarb Cookie, you are being tried for the crime of treason towards your own jam and dough. The punishment will be crumbling. The axe raised. Rhubarb Cookie lowered her head, tears staining her cheeks. The clang of candy hitting candy sounded out. Gingerbrave, with all his strength, swung and obstructed the axe. Grilled Zucchini Cookie stumbled backwards. Royal Root Cookie watched in shock, then rage. How dare an outsider child interrupt anything of his orders? Exasperated, Gingerbrave lifted the letter. If you won't read this, then I'll read it to you. There was silence, and within that interrupted space, Gingerbrave read, To our dear friend, Royal Root Cookie. Royal Root Cookie was frozen. Never did he expect an apology, not from the witch Silver Apple Cookie. His eyes met Rhubarb Cookie's, and his heart sank. What was he about to do? To his own dear daughter. Royal Root Cookie stood from his seat, hurrying upon the scaffold and making his daughter free himself. He embraced Rhubarb Cookie as she finally broke into sobs, and all the kingdom watched as the skies upon their land finally lightened. Royal Root Cookie stood from his study, resealing the envelope and returning it to Gingerbrave. Brave one, I fear I cannot join you. I must heal my kingdom's heart from my sin. He took Gingerbrave by the shoulder and pointed southeast. In that direction was the kingdom of Sapphire. There, they would meet the quietest among their friends, Captain Bluefin Cookie. And soon, we shall meet our final hero, the Meat of Unity.